Hi everyone, this is Mr. Normile, and the purpose of this video is to give you a very brief tutorial on the reports that Edgenuity will generate every day for students in summer school. Now there's a lot of information here, but we're going to boil it down and try to keep it as simple as possible. The first number that we'll take a look at is the student's daily goal. This is an estimate by the computer about how much time it will take the student to catch up or be on pace. So in this case, we have student number one here. This report was taken at the end of summer school, and the student had stopped coming about halfway through. And so you can see this is a very high number. If this student came back, it would take the students about 24 hours. So that's about 12 class days to catch up. We want this number to be very low. The next grade that we'll look at, or the next number that we'll look at, is the student's actual grade. This is just what we think of as the regular grade. This is what would show up on a report card. This is where the student is now. This is what the student has gotten on average on everything that they've been assigned. The next number is a little less important, but it's kind of telling. It's the relative grade. This number, 32.3%, is what the student would receive if the student were to stop coming to class that day. So this number right here, we expect to see it be very low at the beginning of the summer, because this takes into account the work that the student hasn't done yet all summer. So obviously this is going to be a very low number at the beginning of summer, but we expect to see this number grow and grow. And this is kind of interesting. If you've got a goal to, say, get an 85 or a 90 in a course, this will kind of tell you when you've reached that plateau. The last piece of data that we'll mention briefly is the overall grade. This can be kind of confusing because in this case, it looks like student number one here is doing pretty well, but this number right here only takes into account what the student did. So it takes out any zeros that the student received for work not done. So what does this tell us? Well, this tells us when the student shows up and does the student's his or her work, that the student is able to pass. The student is passing everything that he or she is doing. The problem in this case is the student wasn't doing any work. A really quick way to look at this is to look at these top two bars. We want this top bar to be either green, which would mean that the student had worked ahead and can actually take a break, or we at least want it to be blue, meaning that the student is keeping up. In this case, the bar is red, meaning that the student is behind. And when we compare the top bar to this orange bar, we can see the student is way behind. Now, if we look at another example, we have a student that kept up with his or her work all summer. You can see there's nothing next to daily goal because the student completed everything. If this were the last day of school, we would expect to see a number in here like 2.5 or 4%. But this was taken after school is all over. The student got an 85.4 in class. This is, again, this is everything has been assigned and everything has been graded. So that's why the relative grade is the same thing, because the relative grade, remember, is where you will be if the course ended today. And since this report was taken at the end of summer school, they're the same thing. And again, we look up at the top and we see the top bar is blue because the student was on pace, and the bars are exactly